Committee of the Municipality of the County of Kings. Today's Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. Welcome to the new year. The hour is 1 p.m. and therefore we will call this meeting to order. I'll begin this afternoon by taking roll call. So if members of PAC could indicate on their voting apparatus that you are present, that would be helpful. Thank you. We do have one member absent, Mr. Logan Morse, but I do believe the rest of the committee is present. So thank you all for being here this afternoon. Are there any amendments to the agenda before I look for a motion to approve it? Any additions or deletions? Okay, seeing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Councilor McPherson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Peckford. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion to approve the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor signify in the usual fashion. And once our agenda is approved, I would look to the committee and see if anyone has any items of conflict of interest they wish to disclose. The motion to approve the agenda has passed. Any conflict of interest? Oh, Logan, welcome, Mr. Morse. We are now a unanimous and full committee. Everyone is present. Wonderful. We hope you had a good vacation. And did you bring us back any sunshine? Unfortunately. No. Okay. Well, we're less excited now to see you, though. At this point, I'd look for a motion to approve the minutes of our December 10th meeting. Motion by Deputy Mayor Peckford, seconded by Councillor Gates. Any discussion on that motion to approve the minutes? Any additions, deletions, errors, omissions, etc.? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor or otherwise, please signify in the usual fashion. Thank you very much. And thank you to our staff who always do such a good job on our minutes. The motion is carried and the minutes are approved. Is there any business arising from that set of minutes from December 10th? Any business arising? Okay. Seeing no business arising, we'll move to item 8, regular business. And we have one item ahead of us today, an application to rezone properties on Highway 1, PID 55154025, 55154017, and 55450936 in Coldbrook, file 2406. And we have Perry Bowman here to present this afternoon. And I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hello, everyone. And as just stated, we are here today to discuss a land use bylaw map amendment application or rezoning application for 6746 and 6754 Highway 1 in Coldbrook. So just to run through the usual procedure, this is the land use bylaw map amendment process, starting with a complete application received. We then proceed to a public information meeting. The public information meeting for this application was held on April 30th, 2024, with 8 members of the public plus applicants in attendance. Following that, there is a staff review where the application is referred out to all relevant departments for comments. And then following the staff review, we proceed forward to the Planning Advisory Committee, where the application is presented and then the Planning Advisory Committee votes on a resolution. Following that, we proceed through to initial consideration, where the full municipal council votes on whether to proceed through to a public hearing. Following initial consideration, we have the public hearing. Prior to the public hearing, properties within 500 feet will be notified via letter mail, and it will be posted on the municipal website and social media. Following the public hearing, we have final consideration, where the full municipal council votes and makes a decision on the application. Following that final decision, there is a 14-day appeal period. Okay, so on to the proposal. As said, we have a land use bylaw map amendment application to rezone the subject site. And when I say subject site, in this case, I am referring to the 3 PIDs and 2 civic addresses that cover the whole of the site, from the residential 1 and 2 unit R2 zone to the residential mixed density R3 zone to permit the development of 2 12-unit dwellings. So I will just state that ultimately we are assessing a rezoning. We are not assessing development, and future development permits will be required prior to any development occurring on site. But we do generally request a proposal so that we can consider land use conflicts, which is why we have a proposal in front of us. I will note that the application was amended on November 26, 2024, and that change or amendment to the proposal was the change in the ultimate zone that we're proposing to rezone to. So it is now the residential mixed density zone, but when the application went through the public information meeting phase, it was the multi-unit R4 zone. Okay, so the red circle indicates the approximate location of the subject site within the community of Coldbrook. And this is an aerial image of the subject site, which is located on the southern side of Highway 1 and the eastern side of Mountain View Road. The properties also have a total combined area of 1.8 acres and are connected to municipal sewer. The Harvest Moon Trail sits directly across the road from the site, or directly across Highway 1. And this is the zoning map of the subject site. All of the surrounding properties, including the subject site, are currently located in the residential 1 and 2 unit zone. The residential 1 and 2 unit zone permits, as of right, 2 unit dwellings, 1 unit dwellings, and group dwellings. So this is a future land use designation map. At the moment, the site and surrounds are located in the residential designation. The designation of the land identifies what the primary intended use of the land is, and if changes are proposed to be made, what those changes can be. So the Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 3.1.3 states that all residential zones are permitted within the residential designation, meaning that the Municipal Planning Strategy does not prohibit the rezoning of the land from the residential 1 and 2 unit zone to the residential mixed density zone if all other policy components are met. And this is a hypothetical what the rezoning would look like in future if this application is approved. So this is an image of 6754 Highway 1 looking west down Highway 1, and we can see the slope of the land. Again, this is looking at 6754 Highway 1 with the existing house set quite a ways up on the slope as is. But I will note the retaining wall on the left-hand side of the image, which will be relevant in the next image. So this is looking along the frontage of both the civic numbers from the corner of Mountain View Road and Highway 1, and the timber retaining wall shown in the last image is where the yellow arrow is. So we have quite a ways of frontage. And then this is looking east at the dwelling on 6746 Highway 1 from Mountain View Road. So there is a significant amount of vegetation on the site as well around the areas that are clear for dwellings. So, as stated already, we had a public information meeting in April of last year. 64 property owners within 500 feet of the subject property were notified by mail. The PIM was held here in Council Chambers on April 30th, and the presentation from that public information meeting has been made available on the municipal website since that time. A notice of the public information meeting was also placed in the April 23rd edition of the Valley Journal Advertiser. So from the PIM and other phone calls and meetings I had with the public regarding this application, these are the main concerns that were raised regarding the application. I will jump into each of them individually, but I will say that there is a lot more information in the report as well that has been provided as part of the agenda. So one of the chief concerns was in regards to well water and how this potential application could impact, availability of well water to surrounding existing residents. So I will note that well water is under the jurisdiction of the Nova Scotia Department of Environment, but we did request a drawdown test from the applicant regarding these concerns. So from that drawdown test, they were able to, draw up 600 gallons per hour of water. which the licensed well driller has advised is significant enough to support the proposed development. But I will also note that the Department of Environment does not require any form of drawdown license if you're drawing up less than 5,059 gallons per day. So we are, I guess, within rights on that front. Secondly, there was significant concerns regarding all things road safety and road conditions, traffic generation, lack of sidewalks, and school bus routes. So numerous concerns were raised regarding the existing traffic congestion on both Mountain View Road and Highway 1, also relating to how this proposal will impact increased numbers of traffic on the road. Neighbours noted that there was a lack of sidewalks on Mountain View Road, so people had to walk up Mountain View Road on the road, and were worried about increased traffic on that street as well. Also noting that Mountain View Road, I can go back to one of the maps, has I guess a corner, and so we're worried about the potential for further, I guess, accidents or collisions with people or additional traffic coming up and down this road and people exiting their driveways in this vicinity. So we referred the application to the Department of Public Works, who is the body of jurisdiction over both Highway 1 and Mountain View Road, and we relayed all of the concerns raised from the public to them as part of that. They did not come back with any concerns apart from requesting that all future access to the site be from Mountain View Road rather than Highway 1. So we did raise the road safety concerns, the traffic generation concerns, and a range of other concerns with them, but the only thing out of that they thought would have any impact in relation to this application was access to the site. The next major concern that was brought up was in regards to loss of vegetation, natural habitat on the site, and the site cut. So I will note that as part of the planning application process, there is no requirement for a permit for vegetation removal or earthworks. So that is not something that we can consider through this process. In regards to noise and light, I guess the neighbours noted that it was quite a low density, quiet subdivision, and we're concerned that the addition of 24 units would have an impact in regards to noise and light. So in regards to light, street lighting in the car park can be regulated and enforced in terms of having lighting facing a certain direction through our regulations in the land use bylaw. And in terms of noise, with respect to residential noise, the density proposed between these two zones is not changing. So as of right, they could come in tomorrow for a development permit to permit the same number of units. So we're not expecting an increase in noise beyond what is already permitted in the current zone. Next concern was privacy, and that I guess goes towards vegetation removal, but also one of the residents noted that they had had issues with people trespassing through their property up from Highway 1 into this subdivision. We did refer the application out to the RSEMP, and they have not had any, I guess, reports of trespassing in the past year. And then the last concern was in relation to taxes and property values. So unfortunately, that is not something we can consider through this process. Okay, so moving on to policy. The Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 5.3.3 states that Council shall consider amendments to any one of the zoning maps of the land use bylaw, provided the application is for a specific development, and point A is to rezone land to another zone enabled within the same designation. So as we saw before, all of the land is within the residential designation, and the Municipal Planning Strategy just allows or permits all residential zones within the residential designation. So moving further on, Municipal Planning Strategy 5.3.5 states that Council shall consider in relation to all applications to rezone land. Point A, the applicable zone placement policies. Point B, the impact of both the specific development proposal and of other possible uses permitted in the proposed zone. And point C, the general criteria are set out in section 5.3, development agreements and amending the land use bylaw. So in regards to point A and the zone placement policy, that is set out in Municipal Planning Strategy 3.1.2. And for the residential mixed density zone, it is lands located in this zone are intended to provide a transition between areas of low and high density or on properties that would benefit from flexible development options, including diversity of building forms. This zone is intended to include residential units in a variety of building types at a density consistent with the residential 1 unit R1 zone and residential 1 and 2 unit R2 zone. So, the subject site is located in an existing residential subdivision within the Coldbrook Growth Centre, along one of the county's main transportation corridors. The site possesses an opportunity for infill development within an established residential community where existing sewer services can be utilised and where the density and height of residential units permitted under the current zone is the same as the proposed zone. The site would benefit from flexible development options and building forms permitted through the R3 zone or residential mixed density zone while maintaining the minimum density permitted under the current zone. The proposed development of multi-unit dwellings will provide an opportunity for residential units of various sizes to be provided at a density consistent with the residential 1 and 2 unit zone and residential 1 unit zone. And then in regards to point B, which is the impact of both the specific development proposal and other possible uses permitted, there is no change in terms of the non-residential uses permitted between the two zones. The main difference is in relation to residential uses. So the residential mixed density R3 zone allows for more residential uses than what is in the R2 zone, but those residential uses are in effect in relation to the built form of a residential unit rather than the density of those residential units or the height of those residential units. So the mixed density residential zone permits group dwellings, multi-unit dwellings, residential facilities, semi-detached dwellings and townhouses and 2-unit dwellings in comparison to the R2 zone, which only allows group dwellings, 1-unit dwellings, semi-detached dwellings and 2-unit dwellings. So the proposal does not seek to increase the permitted density of residential units of dwellings on the land. It's simply to permit a different built form than what is currently allowed under the R2 zone. Okay, so moving on to point C, which relates to Municipal Planning Strategy Policy 5.3.7 and the general criteria. The proposal is considered to meet the intent of the MPS and does not propose any conflict with the municipal programs, bylaws or regulations. There is not expected to be any financial impact on the municipality as a result of this application. Generally that would incur if we needed to put in new sewer lines or municipal roads that require sidewalks or such. In terms of land use compatibility, the neighbouring uses are all residential uses. This is also a residential use. It is simply just proposing a different built form than what is already permitted within the within the zone. In terms of the slope of the site, there is also the opportunity to have the dwellings set lower than those on the surrounding lots. So in terms of land use compatibility, staff are not expecting there to be any compatibility issues. In terms of adequacy and proximity of schools and recreation, the Coldbrook and District School is within approximately 1,300 feet of the subject site, and the Central Kings High School is approximately a 4-minute drive from the site. The Coldbrook and District School has a large area for recreation, including playgrounds and ovals and such. And there is also the Harvest Moon Rail Trail directly across the road from the subject site. In regards to the creation of traffic hazards and congestion, we did refer the application to the Department of Public Works as stated, and they did not raise any concerns in respect to hazards or congestion. Similarly, we referred the application to the Kentville Fire Chief, who advised that there is adequate services and supply to be able to accommodate this development. In terms of sewer, we referred the application to our internal engineering and public works team, who advised there was adequate sewer service, and we are comfortable with the ability of well water based on the drawdown test supplied. In regards to flooding or serious drainage problems, a drainage plan was provided with the site, which has been reviewed by our engineering and public works team, and with the implementation of a retention basin on the site, they are confident that the post-development flows will not exceed the pre-development flows. There is not expected to be any impact on neighbouring farming operations, and the site is considered suitable based on grade and soils. Okay, so just to recap, we started with a completed application. There was a public meeting held on the 30th of April 2024. Following that, a staff review was undertaken where the application was reviewed to all the relevant departments for comments. We are now at the Planning Advisory Committee, where today you will vote on a resolution. Following that, there is initial consideration by the full Municipal Council, where they will vote as to whether to proceed to a public hearing. Prior to a public hearing, properties within 500 feet of the subject site will be notified again via mail. And following the public hearing, there will be final consideration and a final vote by the full Municipal Council, following which there is a 14-day appeal period. So, in terms of the recommendation, the Planning Advisory Committee recommends that Municipal Council give first reading to and hold a public hearing regarding the application to rezone 6746 and 6754 Highway 1, PID. I will finish that when we have technology. Oh, okay.
I think it's in the package, so I can finish reading it.
Sorry about that.
Do you want me to, what was the last word you had? Oh, here it is. Okay, I was going to continue, but you go ahead.
Okay. PID 55154025, 55154017, 55450936, Coldbrook, from the residential 1 and 2 unit R2 zone to the residential mixed density R3 zone, as described in Appendix C of the report dated January 14th, 2020. Well, that should be 5. Apologies, on my screen it's 4.
2024. Yes, that's what it should say?
No, it should say 2025.
Okay,
Yours
it's 2024 in the
wrong.
package.
Sorry.
Okay. So the report is dated for today.
Yes.
Which is 2025.
Yes.
Dates are hard. Years are hard.
My slide is wrong.
Thank you for reading that into the record. At this point, I'd look to the PAC and see if there are any questions about this application to rezone. Councillor Gates, we'll begin with you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, just a quick question for clarification. Is the exiting to the development on both Mountain and to Highway 1? So there's 2 exits?
Through you, Madam Chair, the Department of Public Works has requested that all future egress and access to the site is off of Mountain View.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McPherson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, it's kind of a follow-up question actually to my colleague. First of all, thank you very much for the very informed and detailed presentation. It was quite informative and easy to follow. For me, the first question is always around public engagement, and I'm satisfied that we followed process and continue to follow process within that, and there isn't COVID or anything that detracts us from the importance of that public engagement, so thank you for that. When I look at the concerns that were brought up at the Public Information Center, the 2 that really jump out to me that carry the most importance for me would be the well water and the access. Katie Rogers has clearly shown and indicated that there's enough water there to support the number of units that are requested. So the real question is around Mountain View Road and the access. Within the presentation you had mentioned, or someone had mentioned, that there may be an issue with the narrowness of the road. Just wondering if there's any further information or clarification as to whether or not Mountain View Road will be upgraded, requires upgrading, whether or not it's a provincial road or a municipal road, And are there any issues for which we should have concern regarding that access point to the properties?
Through you, Madam Chair, and I guess Trish, Director Javert can jump in as well. So when I referred the application to the Department of Public Works, I advised that concerns had been raised in regards to Mountain View Road. They did not come back advising that Mountain View Road would be widened. It is a provincial road. I would assume, based on right-of-ways on either side of the road, I don't know how wide they would be as to whether there is the ability to widen them. There is existing ditching along both sides. I've forgotten the second half of that question, I'm sorry.
So just wondering about whether or not it's safe, it's adequate. Actually, there were a couple of concerns. One was the width of the road, and the other
Yes.
was the slope of the road.
Yes. Again, I did raise the slope of the road with the Department of Public Works, and they effectively came back and said that the slope is of no concern to them.
And maybe, Madam Chair, just a very simple follow-up question. I take it it is a paved road and not a dirt road?
Yes, that's correct.
Anything to add, Director Javrik?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe Perry actually covered off everything other than I just wanted to clarify. So at a rezoning application process that we're dealing with, we're only seeking comments from transportation. So as Ms. Bowman has indicated, they are signaling to us their intention to issue, at the time of permitting, an access permit. You can't get an access permit issued by that department unless you meet all of their safety concerns, if that helps to clarify.
Anything further from anyone? From Councilor McPherson? All good? Okay, perfect. I have one follow-up question similar to what Councilors Gates and McPherson have been talking about, and that is that situation, and it's maybe not directly related to the application, but that section of road is extremely dark and the tall trees, and I wonder if the county has ever considered installing streetlights along that section between the light and like the food land, because it is so dark, and I don't know. It's not, I know it's not, this is a rezoning application, so this is a little outside the scope of a rezoning. But I don't know if that's ever been considered. I don't know if Director Javrik, you know if there's any history along there about that section.
I'm not, through you, I'm not aware of any prior discussions about street lighting on Highway 1. I think the oddity of streetlights is situations like Highway 1, and while we may see merit in putting that in, our model would be to charge the residents along Highway 1 for those streetlights, so it would create a bit of an issue, but I can pass that along to engineering and get that definitive answer to you.
That would be great, thank you. Especially, I thought it was really great that they included the reference to the new highway interchange coming in and how that will reduce traffic along that stretch of road. And if that stretch of road does become slightly more residential, perhaps lower speeds, then maybe we are looking at like a streetscape type of, just a lowering of that streetscape to be a little more residential rather than such a, I mean, it's a thoroughfare currently, and I do feel for anyone who lives along that stretch. So I think that the new interchange should help. Okay, my second question, now that I'm entirely off topic, is school capacity. So when we reach, I noticed in here, and I know this comes up often, but in the package, it references when you reach out to Coldbrook School that Coldbrook School has recreational facilities. And when we engage in those conversations, do we ask about school, like I know there's schools there, do we ask about capacity? Because I know particularly since the introduction of the pre-primary program, schools have been, have space is at a premium, and our communities are all growing, and I'm curious whether or not Coldbrook School has capacity for, extra children, or even Central Kings, although I do think Central Kings is at less of a, in Cambridge as well, like less of a premium. Mm-hmm. Do we know that?
To be honest, I don't know the answer to that question. If we have an application where we're looking at a significant increase in density in an area, then we would generally ask that question. in this case, because we're looking at the same density as what is already permitted on that site, I did not ask that question.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was just, yeah, curious, so thank you for that. Yeah, okay, perfect. Space is at a premium as someone with 3 children in school. Okay, wonderful. Any other questions? Thank you for allowing me those. Anything else? Okay, wonderful. Perry's kindly read us the recommendation. Are we ready to move and second that? Yes, it looks like we are. Deputy Mayor Peckford, Councilor McPherson have moved and seconded. Sorry, folks over here. You're so spread out. I'm just not seeing you over here. I don't know. I keep thinking that, Kate, you're a part of staff when I see you right there. So I mean, it's just, you're not allowed to move and second things anyway. So apologies. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate on the topic? Okay, seeing no debate, I call the question. I'd ask that you indicate for or against in the usual fashion. Thank you. And thanks, Perry, for your presentation, and Director Javrik for your answers to our questions. All right, the motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Is there any other business to come before Planning Advisory Committee today? I would just note that from the chair's perspective, I do plan to have a meeting with Mayor Corkum regarding some of the concerns he brought up at the last meeting regarding farmland, and that I think we're going to work with staff to put together a presentation of some kind regarding farmland, agricultural zoning, and the history, and all those types of things, both for PAC and for council to attend as sort of a joint endeavor. And we'll get back to you with the dates and times of all those things as well. And it may be just during a regular PAC session, so you don't have to make 2 trips. But we'll send you the details. Any other business? Okay. Comments from the public. Are there any comments from our members of the public today? You're good? Chris, are you good? Okay, perfect. No comments from the public. Our next meeting will be February 11th, 2025, here in Chambers, and I would look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Gates and Kate. Ms. Friars, thank you. Okay, we are adjourned. Oh, you have to vote on that, and then once we've voted, then we're adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen, for attending with us today. Thanks to staff for all you do, and thanks to everyone for being here. Motion carried. We are adjourned.